Ayo's good, everyone. Twisted here with Open Sorcery, and today I want to go ahead and talk about paying tithes or donating to the divine. Now, this sort of thing right here falls under the umbrella of offerings in the variety of ways that you can go ahead and provide them to different aspects of divinity and such. This one particularly being money-based. And this is something that Devi has covered previously, so I'll put a link in the YouTube posting of this for anyone who wants to listen to her takes on the subject. Nevertheless, when it comes to going ahead and paying tithes itself or donating to the divine, right? When it comes to giving money in whatever way, shape, or form to gods, goddesses, angels, daemons, elementals, so on and so forth, and showing your appreciation. This right here is going ahead and providing, a flow of energy, you can say. So for all the things that you may go ahead and ask for or look for assistance in and doing and such, right? This is one way that you can go ahead and return the favor or return that flow of energy and such. And something I want to go ahead and point out and highlight, and you can go to YouTube or some other sorts of source on the internet, and I'll provide a link as well in the YouTube posting of this, is the etymology of not only just money but various other things as stated by Jordan Maxwell. And the one particular etymology that he went ahead and broke down, at least in the particular source that I'm going to provide, as well as in other interviews and conversations, is that for currency. So once again, this is a money-based thing and paying tithes, right? So going ahead and offering up dollar bills or coins or, whatever sort of currency, right? Hell, even digital currencies, potentially speaking, for those who are technomancers. But Jordan Maxwell talks about currency, and when you go ahead and you slow it down and you chop it into two words, it turns out to be current and sea. So this being more so of a aquaceous nature, of a water-based sort of nature, and how that flows, right? And thinking about energy in that sort of sense, right? Allowing the flow to occur. And it's just not necessarily going and being directed your way, but this is one way that you can go ahead and allow it to be flowing back to the aspect of divinity that you worship, that you follow, or if it's not a particular aspect or a particular persona or anything like that, just to the quote-unquote universe or God or source or whatever overall as you view it or term it or phrase it and so on. Now, this comes along with doing it because you want to, not because you have to or out of obligation. And that is some sort of thing that you need to recognize of, like, even if it is written down as a recommended sort of thing in terms of paying tithes monetarily or just providing offerings in general, that you have to do it because you feel like this is the right thing for you to do, as opposed to just some sort of, I have to do this. There's a necessity there. And one thing I want to point out is that this is a sort of thing that a lot of institutions, religious institutions, happen to have when asking for tithes to be paid, or, having a certain guideline or reference or whatever of having a certain percentage of your income go to the church or go to God or so on and so forth, right? Because many, if not most, dogmatic and religious institutions attempt to instill a sense of financially owning them, dependent on what it is you happen to be doing, or which church you happen to be a part of, or so on. And they do have operational costs if you're a part of that, community or part of that sort of thing, But The criticism in the following wariness is less about like giving support to a community hub and more about their approach to receiving donations, right? And it's about the mental framework and psychology often utilized happens to play off of a sense of guilt or a necessity, you can say, or trying to go ahead and make it seem as though, okay, you know what, you need to do this and such. And not only that, but it highlights like the worldly aims of institutions tied with religion and so on and so forth, and their aims to become larger and larger in both size and material wealth in many cases, at least here in the West. But that sort of thing, right? Going ahead and accounting for that and making sure that you recognize that what I'm talking about here is doing so more so along the lines of like your individual self and like providing money and such and paying tithes, donating to the divine, like going ahead and having like a prosperity bowl or something like that, where if there's something that goes on, you put $1 in it, right? Something that's like, okay, you know what, I just had this spiritual experience, or I went ahead and had this magical instance occur, or something tied to your intuition that if it feels appropriate, you go ahead and put it into some sort of bowl, right? And we're going to go ahead and like use that as a preface to talk about something that more so, I'd say recently, or at least in relation to what I'm about to mention, that has been something I've been more so doing for myself, hence the recommendation. So, I'm going to go ahead and think back to a earlier conversation. This was a dialogue had with the aforementioned Devi about spiritual services for money and, are they moral, essentially? And I can put a link in the YouTube posting of this for anyone who wishes to listen to that. But that conversation was a couple years ago, I believe. And since then, right, it was more so of her being more so willing and accepting of these sorts of things for herself, because she happens to go ahead and provide readings, which I recommend if you're in need of tarot card readings or what have you, go ahead and seek her out, because she's definitely someone who is very good at what she does, very accurate and honest. Nevertheless, outside of that sort of shameless plug right there, pretty much in that conversation, I was saying that, she has gone ahead and changed my stance, or a couple other individuals that, I've met have gone ahead and given me insight as to, okay, if there are people who are genuine out there who can go ahead and do readings. Whereas previously I had more so of a generalized sort of view that most people can't go ahead and, like a lot of people who provide their spiritual services for money, they are shysters or not doing it for moral reasons, and best to avoid them. And while I still have that caveat of being wary in particular of whom it is that you are working with in that sort of way, or who you enlist for your services, at the same time, I have more so softened up, not only towards, people being able to provide it in general, but also for myself. And that's one thing, is like, if you're doing it for what you consider as the proper reasons, or for your own growth and evolution, or just to be properly compensated for the honest and true services that you can provide someone spiritually, and so on and so forth, allowing yourself to be comfortable with that, and to go ahead and be able to get what you need in a situation. And just as in paying tithes, you are returning energy to aspects of divinity or the universe and all of that, you are allowing that flow to come to you as well. And this is something that I've been urged in particular by Archangel Zadkiel, who is a part of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life structure and method and framework, as well as Archangel Asario, who I have spoken about before. Once again, you can post a link for the YouTube description and such, and other aspects of the divine, highlighting, hey, look, you can go ahead and provide your services for money, and that's okay, and you're receiving energy flow, you're receiving that appreciation, that compensation as well, whether it's a flat fee or getting donations or whatever the case may be, and becoming comfortable in just allowing yourself to be able to do so if you so choose or chose or what have you. And that's the thing, like, if I were meant to be an ascetic monk, or someone else, or most people were meant to be ascetic monks, then that sort of thing may not necessarily be in the cards for them or be a recommendation. However, that's not how most of us are not meant to live in this lifetime or just in general, regardless of whether you have an inclination that you're supposed to be a monk in the past or you did happen to be a monk in the past or whatever the case may be. Now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about something recently that occurred, and I'm not going to particularly state the person's name out of privacy and respect for them because they did not give their direct consent in this particular thing being publicly shared and recorded and so on. But I was going ahead and doing a vendor spot, an event at, a shop in the local area here called Mythic Treasures. And if you have seen our posts on the YouTube channel, then you are aware that we've been going ahead and doing those. But nevertheless, there was this one woman who happened to come to my table, and this was the first person I had gotten for a day, and pretty much just having a good, honest conversation with them, and that sort of rapport, and pretty much hearing them out, and all that sort of thing. And as opposed to like having a particular set price or fee for my services and providing them of doing invocations or whatever sort of thing, I was more so just like, all right, you know what? You're pretty chill. You're pretty cool. How can we help you out? So not necessarily going ahead and expecting anything in return from this interaction. So I went ahead and invoked, a couple different entities for them for their particular purpose and aims of wanting to have a program of theirs be more successful, or I guess you can say have it more so positively charged for it to be a good experience in their event occurring. And after that, she felt inclined to go ahead and donate to me and all that. And in that sort of thing, right? Like, even though I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it on the house. I'm going to go ahead and do it for free. She still, based on the experience and in her heart, provided compensation without being asked to do so. And in that sort of manner of, like, willful exchange between both her and I'm going ahead and providing the service of sending positive energy or charging positive energy for her. And then she went ahead and reciprocated by compensating and giving, a donation and such, even though I didn't ask for it. And while obviously the concept of money and energy flow may not necessarily be foreign to some people, the reason why I'm going ahead and presenting it in this context is for those who do provide spiritual services or what have you, or could provide spiritual services based on the level of ability that they have, don't necessarily hold yourself back. If you genuinely feel like you can or are doing it for the right reasons, and that you actually have positive things to provide others, being honest and true to the best of your ability with what it is that you're saying or doing, whether it's providing readings or going ahead and doing invocations for people, and so on and so forth, or whatever wide range of things that you can do that fall under that metaphysical spiritual umbrella. And go ahead and saying that, right? Once again, a recommendation I have for paying tithes and donating to the divine is setting up a prosperity bowl. So just like I did in getting that donation from that woman and putting it into the bowl once I got home, you can go ahead and do so. If you're providing services for others, and or just in general, from magical things that occur, spiritual things that occur, or just every so often of like, you know what? Thank you, universe, for looking out for me. Thank you for going ahead and making sure that I am taken care of and I am guided and I am seen. Or helping to provide what it is that I need. Whether it is in directly providing services for others in a spiritual, magical, metaphysical manner, or if it's just from working a day job, 9 to 5, whatever the hell it is that you're doing. And, of course, making sure that you're just showing gratitude in some way, shape, or form. Particularly in a monetary sense, but to circle back, it is just a offering of some way, shape, or form, which there are many ways that you can show that gratitude through material means, material sacrifice, or, giving materially and all that. And just sending that flow of energy, you can say back upward, quote unquote, but just to use that as a reference point of higher and lower self or whatever. But I've gone ahead and prattled on about this topic quite a bit and quite enough. So once again, this has been Twisted with the Opener Sorcery, and stay frosty, Neguses. Peace.